Hi there. So real quickly, what you're about to see was supposed to be included on a Zed Talks either tomorrow or on a Freestyle in the News. But because I am such an intelligent procrastinator, it's kind of been pushed off a little too long. And so we kind of have to do a solo video on the whole thing. But this is just a fun story. And FYI, we're still going to talk about Marcellus Williams and MKBHD and Chapel Road and all that kind of stuff. I'll probably do another Zed Talks tomorrow on all of that. That big collab that I was teasing got pushed back to October because of branding stuff. That being said, this is an interesting take on something that we got offered. So enjoy. Hi. It's me from the past. You might notice my hair looks different, unless I didn't get a haircut. In which case that would suck. Okay, so a month or two ago, we started to get quite a few more sponsors who wanted to be weaved into segments on the channel, specifically for Zed Talks and FSTN, and we started to kind of put them in. Exciting stuff. And just so you know, I will never put a sponsor on this channel unless I have vetted it and I'm comfortable with it and like their product, right? If I haven't vetted them, I'm not going to do it. And some sponsorships will offer quite a bit of cash, and I don't want to compromise my integrity. That's just not something I don't do. We've gotten supplement brands and subscriptions that I'm not 100% on, or that people say give them a bad experience, and I'll turn them down because, again, yeah, my integrity matters. And look, I know I'm not like a gigantic Mr. Beast-esque channel, okay? But people who sponsor me, you know, it needs to be worth it for them, and I completely understand that. So overall, things have been going well. And then I got an email from, I shit you not, Raid Shadow Legends. Yes, the meme itself, Raid Shadow Legends. If you don't know Raid Shadow Legends, they are a legend in that they sponsored a ton of creators early on when influencer marketing started to become a thing, and made a massive push for their game to the point that they became a meme for many people. Like, tons of creators would just sponsor Raid Shadow Legends all over the place. There were ad breaks, there were controversies, there were microtransactions, there was memeing, all of it. And so this was like a rite of passage, right? For me to be like, okay, I'm doing well at this YouTube thing. To which I said, no, I'm not going to do the ad. It's a meme, and I didn't necessarily want to do a meme thing or do something that I'm not passionate about and that I feel strongly about, because that compromises, again, my integrity, or a game that looks, you know, like one of those TikTok ads. But then I thought, wait a second, how is Raid Shadow Legends even contacting me? Right? Because like, this is a game from a while back in the influencer marketing history pantheon. Okay? Like, it's a well-known game from then. Is it still going? Are people still playing this thing? Like, is there a community? Are they passionate? Like, what? How? But then I got this weird idea, and then I messaged them back and I said, hey, I'll make you a deal. I'll do a sponsorship with you if, instead of just an ad break, you let me do a deep dive critical analysis into the state of your game, if people are still playing it at all, what those people feel about it, and if it's actually worth the time and the money to the general consumer. And I don't want to do a puff piece. I will be fair. I will give you points where you deserve points, but I'm also going to call out shit like I see it without compromise. And I was like, okay, that is a crazy ask. Okay, that is a little bit of an ask that crosses a bit of a line when you're talking to a sponsor or a brand that wants to work with you, right? So I'm like, all right, okay, I understand if it's not your thing, but that's the only way I would do it, and it's all good. This episode is sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends. Okay, all right, okay. So I'm going to talk about what they're excited over and what their brief is and everything like that, what they want you to know, and then we'll get into the rest of it. All right, cool. All right, okay. So Raid Shadow Legends is running one of their biggest events to date, the Asgardian Divide. They have a lot of cool, amazing new Norse champions like Loki the Deceiver, who's free, by the way, Thor Feyhammer, Odin Fatefather, and Freya Fateweaver. And yes, like I said, you can get Loki for free by logging in for 7 days between now and October 23rd, and you get the rest through in-game activities. Loki is a master of chaos and mischief, and he can cloak himself through the perfect veil buff. Thor deals incredible damage and uses a brand new thunder counter. Odin can steal enemy buffs and revive his allies. Freya, the golden defender on Asgard, also got buffs and the ability to prevent the death of an ally with the highest critical damage. As part of Asgard Divide, players can enter the event dungeon, a limited time dungeon that sees you battle enemies and bosses connected to the event, and then test their wits against Odin Feyfather. And Asgard Divide runs until November 22nd, so now is the perfect time to get into the thick of it. So jump onto Raid by clicking the link in the description or scanning the QR code to get some insane bonuses. You get the Epic Knight Talgar from the Orc faction, and then at level 15, you get the Epic Knight Errant from the Bannerlords faction. And if you get it, you can just high-five me on the street. Like if you see me and you're like, hey, I got the Talgar and Errant, and I'm like, oh, that's great, dude, and I'll give you a high five. You can't pass that up. And you can also join my clan under Too Soon Crew. So listen, if you want some new Norse champions on your side, if you want to try to tackle and fight Odin Feyfather face to face, and if you want to support this channel, sign up for Raid, jump into Asgard's Divide, and bring your destiny to light. Cool. Cool? All right. Now let's get into it. All right, we're going to break this down. I'm going to take a deep dive into Raid and all of that. I'm going to be fair and critical. Here's what we're going to tackle. Do people still play this game? How does this game play? How do people feel about the game and what is the community like? And how much money is it and is it worth it? Let's get to it. So right off the bat, do people still play Raid Shadow Legends, right? And by people, I don't mean like 4 people on a Steam chart, right? Is there a player base for Raid Shadow Legends, which has been memeified into legendary status? Surprisingly, yes. Looking into it online, and I promise you, I did not expect this. There's a decent sized player base, right? Like a lot of people actually play this game. There's a Raid Shadow Legends subreddit that is actually fairly active. They have their own Icy Veins like guide site dedicated to strategy around Raid and what's optimal. Many people in the community seem to coalesce around events. Those are kind of the active points where everybody kind of looks forward to, you know, kind of like when a fighting game drops a new character or when there's like a new dungeon in WoW. And a big part of those discussions is sharing champion balance and different builds and everything like that, which I should talk a little bit about those champions real quick. Raid, first and foremost, is a gacha game. It is the gacha-iest of gacha games that ever gacha'd. A lot of that terminology is safe for games like Zeniless Zone Zero or Genshin Impact or games mainly from the East, but this game is super gacha. Like that's the vibe of it. And some people will look at that and gacha and the whole economics of it and go like, I don't understand necessarily where the appeal from all of this comes from. I don't know why someone would necessarily buy into this. But then you look at games like Marvel Snap and all of a sudden it makes more sense. This is a card game. Like, listen, the idea and the identity around how this operates is very similar to how card games and trading card games in general operate. There are dozens of different champions. You have to grind to be able to afford them, and it's a crapshoot. But when you get one that you like or something that's rare, it's a huge high and a boost, and using them feels good. Just ask my One Piece card game addiction. I'm so fucking mad at Kid Liquid for getting me into that shit. And I will say this because the community has mentioned this. Early on, the game gives you an immaculate boost of progress, right? You make a ton of progress so quickly when you start out, and that feels really, really, really good. Again, if you're comparing it to Marvel Snap, it's all of those base cards you get, and every time you're getting a new ability, it feels nice. Each of these characters isn't a super complex outfit of spells. You're not getting a WoW character from vanilla with like a giant talent tree, but they do have the fundamentals of RPG combat down, figuring out your different builds to tackle new content and events. And generally, the community is aware of what the monetization of this game is. And that's the big thing we got to talk about, because listen, it is very grindy to get your new materials after the initial jump. Like I said, this is a gacha game, for better or for worse. And the spending on the game ranges. You have many people who will spend nothing and grind out those rewards, you know, on a free-to-play basis. And you have other people who spend big money on this game, like 1 to 2K every single cycle, to people who will spend like $300 over like a year. Now, that being said, many players do play free to play and are willing to spend a few hours a day to build up their champions and take them up. But the appeal is champion collecting. Again, if you have ever played a card game like Magic or like even One Piece, there is a thrill to opening up a pack and getting an alt art of something, of a card you will never use, right? But just the aesthetic and the fact that you got it and how beautiful and amazing it looks is a huge hit of dopamine. Now, that being said, in terms of balance, this shit is all over the place. Keep it real. This is a mobile game. This is like a card game. There is an advantage if you pay. It's just, it is how it is. You get a boost. Recently, also on the Reddit, the community has said the difficulty on this game has gone way up and the rewards have become less while the game has become much, much harder. So it takes a lot more effort to tackle some of these events and play on that free-to-play side of things. And that's been a big talking point over the subreddits in the community, specifically the change in difficulty. Quite a few people do enjoy overall the new content, you know, and some of the stuff that's been coming to the game. They say that Dungeon Divers, which is a big content drop that they had, has been a grind for a lot of them. But you kind of get what I'm trying to say here, right? Okay, but what's the community like? What is there like a fully functioning, breathing community? Like, what are they like? The community seems fairly welcoming. They're very upfront with new players about the gacha game aspect of it, about how to play if you want to play free to play, what it's going to take if you really want to get the most out of this game, where the highs are, where the lows are. That was a big thing too, right? The game is consistently getting new content for these guys to get excited about and for the community to coalesce around. And there is a fun discussion around the gacha around it. Like most gacha games, like that gamble is a fun thing to talk about. That progression has a really fun high to it. But like I said, it is grindy. But all of that said, with the culture around the community, with how the game is going, all of that, with the monetization, is it worth it? Here's what I'll say. Here are my personal thoughts, which are uncompromised, right? Again, I'm not doing a puff piece here. This game is the devil you know. That's what the community's saying, and that's what I'm going to say here. If you want to fuck around and enjoy the systems and you like collecting champions and the customization of it all, it can be fun. Listen, you're not going to get $1 billion back from your investment, but you can enjoy some of how these champions look and play, and collecting them and achieving those goals is fun in a very specific way. Gacha games make money off of this. They are very much so about that experience. And if you do have time on your hands, there are people who do play this game for free, and there are a ton of online guides for getting the most out of playing this game specifically for free. That being said, if you are somebody without a lot of time on your hands, and if you're not looking for that grind, for that progression system, and you don't want to spend money on this, this is probably not what you're looking for. And I'm being honest, like, listen, when I pitched the whole thing, I thought this was going to be a fucking desert, all right? I didn't think it would have an engaged, thriving community and one with like strategy guides and hierarchy of the champions. Like, I didn't think it was that much time put into this kind of stuff. So there are people who are fairly engaged with this system, and it's the experience that they're getting that counts. But if you're not a part of that experience, if you don't like card games, this is just going to feel like a money sink or a time sink to you. It's for a very specific type of person. And I'll give you another thing that I found out. We have a new guy who's editing for us today, and he's editing this video specifically, right? And when I was on the phone telling him about, hey, we're going to do a video on this and everything like that, and I mentioned Raid Shadow Legends and the meminess of it, he went out and he told me, hey, actually, I knew this guy who was an ex-special forces person, who he was disabled, right? He completely, I think he was paralyzed somewhat. And this guy just randomly told him he's like one of the top players at Raid Shadow Legends. Like that, he's like super into that. If you would have told me that before I found out any of the community shit, I would have probably went, that's what? But again, that's legitimate. It gives that veteran and people like him something to enjoy and engage with. And there's no shame in it. If you like card games, if you like gacha games, like them. It's the experience that counts, but it's a very specific experience. So's the free-to-play stuff where you can work towards those rewards. So's the one where you can pay for it. It just depends what's for you. But yeah, that's my take. It's not dead. It's got new content coming. It's got heavy monetization, right? But if you're fine with that, or you have time for the free-to-play thing, you can get something out of it. It's all about what experience you want to have. But let me know what you think in the comments and if you've actually played it. And thank you to Raid Shadow Legends for letting me say what I wanted to fucking say. If you like the game or you want to try it out, you can click the link in the description, or you can check out the QR code on screen right now. If anything, I think that shows confidence in their product, which is rare these days. But yeah, let me know what you think.